Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Salon Scoop podcast. I am super excited about today's episode. It's one of my favorite topics where we're going to try to unlock what goes on in those 6 inches between our heads that sometimes holds us back in the salon industry. I've got an amazing guest with us today who really specializes in a lot of the power of mindset and sort of flipping that script internally to help us really unlock a lot of our potential. So this particular person has been not only a salon owner, but of a top 200 salon in the US for over 13 years, has now been a certified coach for over 10 years with international certifications, runs a Power and Joy mentorship program. Lots of things that we're going to delve into today. Just want to say a big welcome to Bridget S.O.S for being with us today, Bridget.
It's so great to be here with you, Scott.
Yeah, I'm really excited to sort of delve into a little bit more about your experiences and sort of what you've been doing to really, help salon professionals and really bring some value to our listeners today. The one thing that we always do at the start of every episode with each of our guests is to ask one of our S.O.S signature questions. So having been a former, hairstylist, hair colorist yourself, bring yourself back into those days. And if you could do any celebrity's hair, who would it be and why?
When I was doing color, I specialized in blondes. So that was like my thing. And yep. I probably would say Gwen Stefani. She's blonde. She's an amazing artist. I love her music. I love her style. And she just seems like if I were to meet her, she'd be a really cool person. So I think that's who I would pick.
Nice. Yeah. She seems to have a lot of like spunk and energy and would probably, be open to letting you do kind of a lot of creative flexibility with her hair, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I loved blondes. Yeah. Like I was a blonde specialist for sure.
Nice. Very cool. All right. Well, we want to get a little bit of the scoop on your journey and really delve into some topics that we can kind of bounce around on when it comes to mindset and industry. Can you maybe share with our audience how you got into the industry in the first place, and maybe like a quick overview of your career, I guess.
How I got like into the salon.
Yeah, how you got from A to Z,
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so I'll give the quickest short version possible. But when I was in, I don't even think I was 21 yet. I did start going to college. And I actually dropped out of college. I told my parents I wanted to go to beauty school. So I dropped out of my classes and literally enrolled in cosmetology school, I think a week or two later. And that was actually one of the best decisions I have made in my life. And then
remember what the trigger was for you to go into cosmetology school?
Honestly, I was floundering around, not knowing what I wanted to do with my life.
Fair enough.
One minute I wanted to be in the travel industry. The next minute I wanted to work with kids. And I was working in a retail store. I really did not know what I wanted to do with my life. And then all of a sudden it was just like, I think I want to go. It was the best decision I ever made, which led me to where I am now. But I absolutely fell in love with hair color. So I became a hair color specialist. Then I worked for many different types of businesses. I worked for very corporate businesses to things that were in between to very dysfunctional salons. And the last salon that I was working in was extremely dysfunctional. And I thought to myself, if this guy can own a salon, there's no reason why I can't. And I'm sure there's many of you out there that think the same thing. And I was actually making a 6-figure paycheck behind the chair. And then I had the opportunity to buy his salon. And then guess who became the dysfunctional mess?
Me. Let me take 3 guesses, and all 3 fingers are pointing at you.
Yeah. So now I become the dysfunctional mess, owning a dysfunctional mess, and I lose my 6-figure paycheck because I have no idea how to run the salon at all. And I was super highly emotional. I couldn't even have a team meeting without like starting to cry or like shake. So it was a big wake up call. Doing hair behind the chair and running a hair salon and being an owner and having employees is like, it's like apples to oranges. So
it's not easy for sure.
And then I hired a coaching consultant pretty much straight away. Somebody had introduced me to a company, and that was the catalyst to actually where I'm at now. I started putting systems in place in my business, anywhere from like job descriptions to handbooks. I learned what a profit and loss statement was. I had no idea what that was. I didn't even know what really a budget was. And then I really learned how to grow and manage a team. So I started turning the business around. I got my paycheck back. I could lead a team meeting without crying, which was pretty cool. And then, I became a Salon Today Top 200 winner for 13 years in a row while I owned the salon. I owned it for almost 15 years. And then I decided to, in 2019, put it on the market, and I sold the salon because I had become a coach and consultant, and I was specializing in the salon and spa industry. And I really just wanted to take my career and do more coaching and consulting. So that led me to now owning the Power and Joy Coaching Academy, where I certify people to become coaches. And I also do one-on-one coaching and consulting work.
Yeah. So maybe let's delve into that quickly and kind of quick overview. So Power and Joy Performance, or Power and Joy Coaching Academy. Can you share exactly what this is and sort of how you help people from a coaching standpoint?
Yeah. So I love mindset work. So when I've been going to, so I, for over a decade going to hair shows, and I would get up in front of, hundreds of people. And I would always ask the question, like, how many of you want to make more money? And they're all raising their hand, right? They're all raising their hand. And then I'm like, okay, so what's getting in the way of you making more money? And asking this to thousands of service providers and owners, they would say things like fear. Okay, so fear of what? Fear of my clients leaving me, fear of being judged, fear that I'm not good enough. And they also had like the I'm not good enough story. Like, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I don't know how. And then like when even asking for referrals, a lot of service providers were afraid that they were going to look needy. So this whole mindset thing would actually get in the way of people making more money. And a lot of times, why I really started specializing in doing mindset work was I found, as a consultant specializing in the salon spa industry, I'd be like, here you go. Like, here's a consultation system. Here's all these things. Like, you just do what I say and you will make more money. And their mindset would still get in their way.
Right.
So one of the modalities that I specialize in, and I do it one-on-one coaching, and then I also train and certify people in this work, is NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy, and then also hypnosis. So I found that really working with your unconscious mind is like the keys to the kingdom, to let all that, like the negative emotions go, like fear or guilt, or the limiting beliefs, like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, they're going to leave me. Those things, working with the unconscious mind, have been like an insanely amazing catalyst to not only me having my own breakthrough, but the clients that I work with. And I've been certifying a lot of salon owners in the work as well.
Amazing. One thing that I am not going to allow you to do, Bridget, is to hypnotize me on the episode here today. So I'm going to be very, very cautious. It's funny, just this past weekend, I was talking with an old colleague friend about a work event that we were at many years ago, where we had a hypnotist come and do some crazy stuff with some of our colleagues, and the power really that exists there. So very fascinating. I want to understand also a little bit, because you were a long time, colorist and salon owner, and what was the motivation for you to really make that full-time shift to become 100% coach trainer, and really sort of like, yeah, why did you make that change?
I think it was an evolution of my career. I if I were to go back in time, I mean, I'm talking 25 years ago now, so I might age myself a little bit. If I were to go back 25 years ago and someone would have said to me while I was a, hair colorist, oh, one day you're going to be a coach and you're going to certify people to become coaches, I would have been like, and you're going to do hypnosis. I would have been like, that sounds crazy. Like, that sounds so crazy to me. But I just think, like, over the, the evolution of the years, like, even when I was a colorist, I loved educating. Like, I had this dream that I was actually going to be an educator for a major hair color company, of a hair color line that I loved. That was one of my first dreams. And then even then, if someone was like, oh, you're going to own a hair salon one day, I would have been like, that even sounds far-fetched. So it was just kind of like, over the years, I wanted to be an educator. Then I was an educator in a salon. And then I became a head of the color department, another one. So that started giving me a taste of what it was like to manage people. Even though I wasn't the best manager back then. Like, at the time, it was like, you want to be a manager? Here you go. And I was like, there was no training behind it,
Yeah, you're just throwing the keys, and it's like, okay.
Exactly.
Not given the tools or the support to make it happen. And that's often what happens, in the hair salon ownership world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Person makes the decision to either start their own salon, or, buys someone else's salon because they think, I can do a better job. Like you said, like, if he can do it, I think I could do it.
Yeah.
And then you've got the keys to this place, but none of the training to actually do it effectively, right? So
Yeah.
definitely one key challenge. What do you see as, you talked about being on the stage of the show and asking people, multiple times, like, how would they want to, earn money, more money, raise hands, and what's holding them back? What do you see as like the biggest challenge in our industry that seems to be holding salon professionals back from achieving success, if you had to narrow it down to one biggest challenge?
Fear. It's
Just
really
fear.
It's fear. And it's like the fear, and then the guilt, and the like, I'm not worthy mindset. It is like, it amazes me. Even when I meet very successful owners, there's still like this lingering thing that goes in the back of their mind. But, and I think a lot of salon professionals, they're not owning their own power with our profession. This profession, I mean, I think this is like one of the coolest industries to work for. There's so much opportunity there, and you can take your career in so many different directions. And I think people get blinders on, and they don't see how much opportunity that there really is. So I think a lot of it is fear, and not knowing where to go, and like playing a bigger game.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, our mind tends to go always towards the what if, sort of negative scenarios. Like, well, what if I fail? What if my client leaves me? What if my staff is not happy? What if, this goes wrong? And, these are just stories that our mind is kind of like making up in our head. I always like to flip it and say, okay, great. You can say, what if my client leaves me? But what if my client stays? Like, they're two equally, relevant arguments. And it's about training your brain to be looking at the positive scenario as opposed to the negative scenario. And the more that we can kind of put that into our thinking, what if my client stays and refers me another client? Like,
yes.
why am I not considering that scenario? Why am I focusing on what if my client leaves and da, 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 da? We don't know what's going to happen. So we can kind of create our own stories and our own belief system. I think is a big thing that is part of that training, right? We'll delve into this a little bit deeper. One thing though that I also want to touch upon, we talked about, success and successful salon owners or successful service providers, salon professionals, and what holds them back from achieving success. Oftentimes I feel like people don't necessarily know what success really is, right? Or it might be different for many people. So how would you define what success would look like for a service provider or a salon owner today?
Yeah, that's such a great question because it is so individual. But I personally, for me, I think success is like truly creating your life and your career by design. Like you're happy doing what you love. You are living the lifestyle that you want to have. You have a growth mentality. You're looking to always constantly be learning. That is such a success is so different to so many people, but I really think it's ultimately having a life you love and truly living a life by design. Hashtag life by design.
I love that. And nothing that you mentioned, spoke to money. And I find that people way too often relate success to some kind of financial target. And that if they haven't, achieved that financial target, they don't feel that they are successful. They don't feel like they are, achieving or whatnot. When at the end of it, what you said, living your life by design, living the way you want, having that sort of freedom and flexibility and joy in what you, not just what you do every day, like professionally, but I also bring it to life. Like, are you happy in life with your family, your friends, relationships? To me, that's, what success is. And to your point, having a life that you live by design, where you have the flexibility, the freedom to kind of enjoy all those wonderful things. And I think often we need to almost like reprogram what we're actually striving for, because oftentimes it's right in front of us and we're there, but we don't see it because we're kind of blinded by these lures of, financial targets, and that, if I'm not like a six-figure stylist, then I'm not successful. And I hear all these, stories, and we're maybe measuring ourselves of success versus the wrong measuring sticks, right?
Yeah, like I've gone and trained so many teams and service providers, and I go in and I definitely train like systems and consultation systems on how to make more money. And my thing, what I always say, I'm like, you want to become a six-figure earner. Yeah, that's great and all. Who cares? But like, what's the reason behind it? Like, what is it going to allow you to do? Is it going to allow you to go on more vacations, spend more time with your family, take Saturdays off? I don't know what that is. So I always, when I'm working with people, I'm like, get connected to your big why. Like, why do you want to make all this money? Money's great and all. Believe me, we all want it, right? But like, what is it going to do for you? Because at the end of the day, it's money's energy. And it's a vehicle and a tool to support you.
Yep. Love it. So you're known a lot for your talk about the power of no to say yes to you.
Yeah.
Right.
It's one of my favorite.
Power of saying no in order to say yes to yourself. Now it's easier said than done, obviously, but let's just carry on with what you're talking about and start with the why. Like, why is it important to say no more often to others and yes to yourself?
Yeah.
Where's the why?
I find, and this is me, I was a huge people pleaser. I'm a recovered people pleaser. And I would say yes. I was a yes man, and also like Pollyanna pleaser. That would be another like Wonder Woman stunt double and Pollyanna pleaser were probably my like nickname. So Wonder Woman stunt double was like I was doing everything for everyone and getting the crap kicked out of me. And then I had a really hard time disappointing other people. So I would just say yes all the time to every single one. So I was essentially saying no to myself. So what I love is like you really start looking at when people are making requests of you, that you're saying no to the things that don't serve you. Okay. So it's no to the things that don't serve you, and then say yes to the things that do serve you. So that's kind of my spin on it. And but so many times we're just yes mans to everybody, and people make requests of us and clients make requests of us, or then we start feeling bad and we're either fitting them in when we don't have time to fit them in because we don't want to say no, because we don't want them to leave us. So then we're spinning our wheels, making everyone else happy, but then we could be suffering in the inside.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Let's try to dig in a little more specific for people. Like, what are some of the more common things that don't serve us that we should be saying no to, but we struggle with today?
I'm going to probably say one of them that I've coached lots of people on is actually sticking to their schedule. First and foremost, sticking to your schedule. Like if you work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and before you know it, someone's like, oh, well, can you just come in and stay till 7? And you find yourself saying yes. I've seriously have coached service providers, stylists that were like working till 1 o'clock in the morning, exhausted. It's a real thing. So I would say, honoring your schedule, your time. That's one thing that I definitely see that happens in our industry a lot. So saying no when you can't fit somebody else in.
Yeah. Makes sense. So we talked about the why. Let's talk about the how. Like how do we go about doing that? Right? Like how do we it's easy to say, oh, we'll just say no. But there's the pressure, there's the guilt, that you feel like I don't want to, my boss to fire me, if I don't, or I don't want my client to, lose my client if I don't, adjust to their schedule or whatever the case may be. How do we kind of make the strides towards this? Do you have any tips to share? Obviously we're playing down to mindset again.
Yeah, definitely start laying healthy boundaries down. One practice could be that you wait to give somebody an answer, like you give yourself 24 hours. That could be even a first stepping stone.
So you don't get pressured.
I will get back to you. Yeah, so you don't feel pressured in the moment, like that, because sometimes we have to retrain people how to treat us. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. We have to retrain people how to treat us. So I'll even give an example. I used to have when someone would text me, and I'm talking about employees too, when I had employees, when someone would text me, I'm not kidding you, it was just a habit of mine to respond to them right away. Okay. So then now they got used to me texting back right away. And I literally would have to start having team meetings and go, listen, if you make a request of me, I will get back to you within 24 hours. Okay. If it's the weekend, it may not be, if it's Sunday, I may not get back to you till Monday. Like if it's the middle of the night, I'm not texting you back because that happened to me. Right. Because what happens sometimes is someone else's urgency, they put it on us to have it become our urgency.
Yep.
Okay. So again, I had to personally retrain people hey, I'm going to get back to you in 24 hours. Okay. So that was my rule. And then at first, of course, it was why aren't you? I know you're by your phone. I know that. Well, who cares? I don't care if I'm by my phone or not. I'm sticking to my rules. And then when you put your boundary down, you have to stick with it. So that could be one thing. Putting in a 24 hours notice, 24-hour like guideline.
Yep.
I say you absolutely have to pause. You have to pause. I love doing what's called box breathing. So it's like that could be a practice to help. Like you literally breathe in for the count of 4, you hold for the count of 4, you release for the count of 4, hold for the count of 4, and like do that 4 times. Just so you can center and ground yourself. Because so many times it's like, so here's the thing, because I talked about the unconscious mind in the beginning. So 95% of our behaviors and actions happen at the unconscious level, and we're not even aware of it. So we have all these habits and behaviors that we do instantaneously because our unconscious mind is like triggering us to do it. So I just say you have to be more mindful and really just take a step back. So breathing, say, hey, I will get back to you in 24 hours. So we're retraining people how to treat us.
Nice. Because if you don't, like you said, then our mind, our actions are just going to automatically take over if we don't sort of stop to almost like retrain those habits ourselves, right? Because we have these habits that we have built over time. And if some of them are not serving us well, then we need to recognize them and kind of break them and retrain them. So it's also retraining ourselves a little bit. I like the retraining how others treat ourselves. That was a great line. We often say, what you permit, you promote. Right. So if I allow somebody to, email on the weekend and I email back, essentially I am therefore promoting that it's okay to email on the weekend and you're going to get a response. Right. Exactly like you described. I had to go through that myself many years back, where I was for a while, I was receiving emails, whether from, my boss at the time or other colleagues or departments would, send emails on the weekend, and I would, check, and I would end up getting back to people. And after a certain amount of time, I was like, why I'm like glued to my phone, checking emails all weekend. I'm just going to stop. And I had to retrain them. So I didn't just stop responding to emails. I actually proactively sent out a note to everybody. And I said, to respect myself, this is something that I have to do for me.
Yeah.
I am no longer going to be checking, my emails on the weekend. So I just want you to be aware that if something does come through on the weekend, don't expect an answer because I won't be checking. But, come Monday, I'll get back into it and get back to you. And so that was me retraining them in order to say yes to myself and make sure that I had the proper time on the weekends, to myself, to friends, family, whatnot. So love that you speak about that, because it's just so critical for us to recognize those things, and we have to take ownership over it ourselves. Nobody's going to step in and be our own, police for us. Right. We have to kind of be our own police person, and set our own boundaries, and then really stick to them. And I like your pausing approach, breathing, to just kind of really make sure that we're grounded and make the right decisions for ourselves.
Yeah. And another tip that I like to share is focus on what you want. Okay. And again, sounds easier said than done. However, most of the time people are like when I ask somebody, okay, so what do you want your career to look like? What do you want your business to look like? And all of a sudden I'm starting to hear all the things that someone does not want. Okay. Right. Most people are focusing on the things that they don't want. All right. Here's a tip. Okay. The unconscious mind does not process a negative directly. All right. So if I say to you, do not think about your nose, do not think about a purple pig, do not think about a blue tree. Did you think about any of those 3 things?
Of course.
The unconscious mind doesn't process the negative. So when we're focused on all the negative things, That's what the unconscious mind thinks you want. So we start attracting all the things that we don't want in life. So again, I like to say, focus on what you want. That's the practice over here. You know, you can use dating as an example. How many times have you met someone who's like, oh, I don't want to date this jerk. I don't want to date a whatever. And then all of a sudden they can keep dating that same type of person because that's what you're attracting. So you got to focus on what you want.
Yeah, I don't want someone who's selfish. I don't want someone who's this. But to your point, that ends up being what you focus on. Inherently, that's brilliant. I love that. So always make sure that we're focusing on what we do want. You know, I want, whether it's a person, person in the dating world, like I want somebody who's going to be, unconditionally loving. In the workplace, I want, I want to be working on this, what I want, and that's what you focus on. The more you focus your energy towards that, the more that you attract it into your life, right? The power of attraction.
Yeah. Yes. Focus on what you want.
You talk also a lot about limiting beliefs. And we've talked about fear, but what are some of the limiting beliefs that you see affecting salon professionals in our industry? So there was the, I'm not worthy, but let's go a little bit deeper on that.
Yeah, the biggest ones are I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. It's like the most beautiful, like some of the most beautiful people in the whole wide world, right? Salon professionals, spa professionals, but the self-worth is a big challenge. But here's the thing.
So is that another thing where we're focusing on the negative versus the positive?
Yeah. Well, and again, I could go, we could talk about this for days, Scott. You know what I mean? But like,
I know.
Here's the thing. There's something to consider. A lot of our quote unquote programming and our beliefs and our values, they were programmed in us from the ages of like 0 to 7. Okay. We're like little like, sponges, just like gathering up like the good, bad, and the ugly, right? So a lot of these, so when those negative thoughts come up, this is the biggest thing I think to consider for everybody is like, all there really is these probably like, inner childhood wounds that like are ready to be healed. Okay. Because these negative thoughts, they're just thoughts. They're not who you are. They're literally just thoughts. And the reason why I started specializing in this work that I do now and bringing it to the salon and spa industry was because even for myself, like before I started doing the work of NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis, my mind would always be on a hamster wheel of worry. Like my anxiety would be from like 1 to 100, it would be 150. Like I couldn't get my mind to quiet down. And then when I would have a breakthrough in an area, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I had a breakthrough. And then like something would trigger me. And then I would just be like almost right back there. So there's just these like limiting beliefs that are just in our unconscious mind that all they just really need to do is be healed, actually. And just know that your thoughts they're not always like the truth, like, again, what you said even earlier, like it's going to that what if, like, well, what if my clients actually stay with me and then refer me more business? Like, let's think about the positive things. And then what I love too is, breakdowns happen. It's life, but it's like, looking at like, okay, there's no failure. There's only feedback. So, okay, so what happened? What did I learn? And now what do I have to do differently so I can pivot and shift?
I love it. And, some of these things sometimes sound cliche and, we hear them like, there's no failure and, it's learning. But you hear this from so many people and not just, motivational speakers. You hear it from, I hear it from athletes all the time, right? I'm, big into sports and they say, I never would have been able to achieve, the level of success or winning championships if we hadn't gone through, the failures of learning, in the early years of, losing, and you learn from those moments in terms of how to be, better the next time around. And it's so critical that we can recognize these things, that it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's part of growing. It's part of learning. And,
it really is.
what I see way too often is exactly what you were saying, all these like negative stories that we tell ourselves in our head. They're just stories. They're just thoughts. They're not real. We could say that our mind is, the biggest soap opera script writer of all time, because we create all these like crazy outlandish scenarios and we sort of play it out in our heads as if, that's what's going to happen. Whereas 99.9% of the time, those things don't actually, come to fruition. And as much as individuals, if you're in the salon industry and you're a stylist, a colorist, esthetician, think of how much time and energy you've put into practicing your craft, right? To learn how to be a colorist, to learn how to, to cut, to style, to finish. Think of people who are, learning an instrument, whether it be piano or guitar, how much time and energy they put into learning and practicing, right? To become better at that. What I would challenge people to think about is that having the control of your thoughts and control of your mind is probably the most important skill that any of us could have in our life. Yet, how much time and energy do people put in to actually practicing, right, our mindset and sort of controlling our thoughts? It's actually a skill that can be learned and developed, but most people don't put the time into it. Instead, we, practice all their extracurricular activities and hobbies and whatnot, which is fine, but we should not ignore potential to actually grow ourselves by practicing our mindset.
Yeah, I love that you talk. I mean, there's two, like, again, yes, I love that you brought up that, service providers, whether you're an esthetician or a colorist or a cutter, you do put all this education in all the tools that you invest in, right? There's so much behind what you're charging and everything. And I actually had to coach somebody once. She was an owner, she was specialized in waxing, and her belief system at the time was like, she got her waxing down to like 15 minutes for Brazilian, right? That's amazing. Yep. Right. But she was like, well, I feel bad charging more because it only takes me this much time. And I was like, are you kidding me? I will pay 3 times more to someone that can do excellent work in 15 minutes versus taking an hour. Yeah. Like, I want to be in and out, please. I will pay triple to have you do it in less time. So charge more. Right. So yes. There's so much. I mean, how much does cosmetology school cost these days? Like $20,000, $20K. It's an investment. And all the classes on top of it, that, the continuing education and all the things. So, and one of the cool things about this industry is like, robots are not most like, I mean, what could a robot cut somebody's hair? Maybe, but like we're one of the few industries where we legally get to touch people, and that human connection, that's so vital. Like, even with all the AI that they're talking about, and yes, that's a cool tool, but like people, that is one of the foundational things. People crave human connection.
Yeah. And experience. Right.
Yes.
And those are all the things that we're able to provide. And that I agree, artificial intelligence cannot replace, so much of what we actually do in this beautiful industry. So we should definitely be able to stand the test of time in that game. Anyway, this is fascinating. I mean, there's so much, like you said, with so many angles that we could go into, but I kind of have two questions left, but they really sort of wrap in sort of together. So I'm gonna wrap them, and we'll sort of close up our conversation with this. And it's kind of, what advice would you give to someone who is just starting their career in our industry? And another way to say it is sort of like, if you had a magic wand, like what would you change for people in the industry to allow them to, live their best life and have a quote unquote successful, career, whatever success, means. So what advice would you give to someone just starting out?
Absolutely find a mentor. Find and work under a mentor. Whether you're going to find an awesome salon owner to work for so that they can mentor you. And I know it's a very huge trend where people are going from beauty school right to suites and booth rental. Get a mentor, get a coach, get a consultant. Even in my career, 25 years later, I still have mentors and coaches. So one of the best pieces of advice I could say is get a mentor, have somebody support you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We can't just, walk into this industry or any industry, right? And expect that, coming out of school, we know everything and can kind of do it all on our own. It's really missing out on such a huge opportunity to learn from the experiences, of others, to find somebody that's really going to take the time and energy to help guide us, along. You can learn much more quickly, learn from other people's mistakes, rather than only learning from your own mistakes along the way, which, ends up being a lot longer. So what a great message, Bridget, and great way to wrap up this conversation today. If people want to connect with you, to get more information sort of about what you do or to get some support, how can they connect and reach out to you?
I'll just go for, there's so many ways, but I'll just point everybody to, I'm a coach, Bridget S.O.S on Instagram.
And we'll have the spelling of that
Coach
in the
Bridget
show notes.
S.O.S on Instagram. That's probably one of the, you can DM me there, follow me. I absolutely look at my DMs. So that I'll just point to that one place right now.
Amazing. And you mentioned a little freebie that you had for listeners. Maybe you can mention that here as well, so that if anyone wants to pick that up, they can grab that.
Yeah. So it's the 3 biggest blocks to your salon and spa's exponential growth. So it's my free guide that I created.
They can just DM you on Instagram to request that.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll send it straight away.
Thank you so much for being with me today here, Bridget, having this conversation and really giving us the scoop on all the mindset, sort of issues that go on in our industry and some of the unblocks that exist. A lot of really great learnings, nuggets that came out of this discussion. Remember, everybody, set your boundaries, say no to things that aren't serving you, say yes to yourself more. Focus on the positives, right? Believe in what you have. And as a listener, if you enjoyed this or somebody in the industry who's, struggling with some of these things that we talked about today, please share this episode, with them. Let's raise the awareness. Let's raise the attention to some of these important issues in our industry to help more people just have more joy in what they do. Really, I think that is going to be the base. If you have a better sense of control and being more proactively kind of taking charge of your schedule, of your life, both professionally and personally, it's going to bring so much more happiness and joy and allow everyone to live their best life. So thank you so much again, Bridget, for your time. Thanks everyone for listening. Any last comments, Bridget, from you?
I would just say, go live a life by design. This industry has so much opportunity. So just go after it and truly create a life by design.
Love that. Take that message. Go have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.